everyone, Ernie Tech here. I want to revisit Moshix's Form 3270. There's been some improvements, and I got to tell you, this is one of the most ambitious things I've ever seen as far as the amount of work that went into this. And as I understand it, hopefully Moshix will correct me if I've overstepped. Moshix is a busy guy who travels a lot, and his development work seems to be occurring, as they say, in between the raindrops. So wherever he is, whatever he is doing, if he finds time in between the raindrops to work on the code, add modules to it, correct it, fix it, upgrade it, improve it, whatever the case may be, he does it. And now we're up to 35,000 lines of code for this thing. Think about that, 35,000 lines of code. Incredible. There lies the genius of Form 3270, all that work to create something that we can freely use, and it represents the kinds of things that we're interested in, the mainframe environment. Okay. Now, you've seen this before. This is the login screen. There really are only two things you can do here. That is, you can go switch between user ID and password, and to do that, you just hit the tab key. It'll pop back and forth. If you go outside of that and you try to do anything in or something, it's going to give you an X protected, so you know that's not the place to put something. So for now, you're only going to need to just have your user ID and password. Before I do that, though, real quick, up here, if you haven't registered so far, and you're at this screen, and you hit PF5, or in this case here, the function key, you'll be able to fill out the form to ask for a account in the Form 3270. Or if you've lost your password, you can certainly use the F90 to ask for it back. All right, I'm going to go in as me, and it takes 2 seconds, and then I am in the house. Right now it's going to fetch weather. The closest city to me is Philadelphia, so that's where I'm going to get my weather from. This sometimes takes a little while, but I think it's because it's a source that Moshix has to pull in either as an API or as maybe a JSON source or whatever the case may be, but it eventually will pop up here. I had mentioned before that there are a number of things you can do, lots of fun things you can do. You got the calendar. You have some information about what's going on, who you are, the time online, the people in chat, unread messages, and so on. Yeah. So the fastest thing to do to get going here is to pick the topics of conversation, because there are a lot of fun things going on in there. This is the list of topics that are currently in the forum. One of the things that Moshix has been working on is a story that he has been writing. It's very fun, called The Rome Deception. He's up to Chapter 5. I've made some inane comments about what I think is going on. It's a whodunit. It is a, well, I said that it was very similar to Clifford Stahl's The Cuckoo's Egg, I think it was called, where there is an anomaly. There is something going on in the system logs, and it looks like subterfuge. It's not just one of them little funky errors. There's no little funky error, by the way. And this guy is going to track it down and find out where it goes. And so far, he is all over the place, soon heading to New York City to find out what's going on. Right now, something new popped up here. Let's see, Forum MVS file transfer. This is from Paradox. Since we have responsibility to back up our own files, what are the available options for a file transfer to from the community MVS instance? I'd like to be able to set up a script so I can run to download my data sets automatically so I can keep them in a Git repository. Great idea. Normally, you would just do it using $ind $file, set it off to run at the ready prompt. Outside of a panel of some kind, and then on the other end you would use file transfer, like in this case here, down here to file transfer, but this is not exactly the case, so I don't know. That's a good question, and I'm sure Moshix or Lieb will come back and give Paradox that answer. Let's get back at it again. And by the way, if I wanted to keep track of that particular message, watch this. I go over here, I pick that, hit the X button, X marks the spot, and then I can say, as you see down here, F10 to save it to notes. So I hit F10 and the topic is saved to notes. And then what happens is, if I want to check out my notes, which is N as in notes, Then right there, the topic of MBS file transfer is right there. I can keep track of it without having to dig through it. Put an X right there. It takes me right back to it. And so that is that is the way you get around notes. You can just save them, or you can make one without saving it from the forum, anything you like. But it's very flexible and very useful. All right, let's pop out again. You have messages. You have a marketplace. Yeah, so if you move them, I'm so used to moving the mouse around for other things that I forget that you're getting X protected off of that. If you do get X protected because you're in the wrong spot, hit your tab key, pop back up to the option. Let's see if the marketplace bears a Commodore VIC-20. Nah. The SL550 sports car? Sure. But, no. But, yeah, they're there, and you can send a message to the seller or however the transaction. It's up to you. Transact. You handle the transaction. It's not like it's, eBay or something. All right, let's pop out of here again. User Rolodex. Who's on, who's off, who they are, when's the last time they were on, how many topics, how many posts. There are some people who are very prolific at posting. I tend to post pretty good. Moshix, obviously. Who else? Other people. But we need more activity. I really want this to grow. It is a neat BBS style environment and something that I love. I wish I had more time to be on it, but my time is like Moshix's and most of us. It's rare that I have 5 minutes to sit down and do. It's rare that I have 5 minutes to sit down and do these videos, but I try to make time for them. Okay, chat, private chat. If I go into chat, well, there has been some topics going on for a while, and right now, nobody's in there. If they're in there, I could probably say hello and they would see it, but right now I don't have time, unfortunately, because I'm making the video. Pop back out of there. You saw the notes, saw the Rolodex. You can add entries to your calendar. So let's add an entry to my calendar. What is it that I'm going to be needing to be reminded of? Well, I have the boss sitting here next to me. I'm sure he's going to remind me of various and sundry things, but what is it I have to do tomorrow? Food store or FOD store. Food store. Have to get food. That's one way of doing it. Press your F10 key, save that out of there, and that is in your calendar of events. Now, it's not graphical, all right? It doesn't show up like a calendar that you would have in Google or something, but it's really very straightforward and very fun. All right, let's pop out of here. A little bit of statistics. SDSF. It shows you who is using what, when the last action was, what their activity was. Neat stuff. There's also right here, if you notice. Now, I noticed that the FTP daemon has stopped, which makes sense, which is why I couldn't FTP up to it. I hope they open that up again. Maybe there's an issue there. Same thing with the web daemon. But this shows you what's going on as far as the system and as far as user activity. Let's pop out of there. You could edit the profile. Not much to do in there. It looks like it's pretty well done. Now, this is where a lot of new stuff is happening. Oh, I notice here. Philadelphia area, overcast. Yeah, I was just out in the faceless, nameless, white generic SUV that I own. One of the plainest cars I've ever owned, but it does the job. Light rain with thunderstorms, 81. Right now it's only about 70, so that may be coming along later on. All right, so let's sort topic columns by placing cursor on column and F11. Yeah. Well, I don't know about that. My fear is that when I do things like that, things break. So right now I'm not going to do that just because things break. All right, let's go to the extended menu. Right now in the extended menu, you have a couple of things. There's a big thing in here, but there's a couple little things here. So, for instance, I just want to have a clock running in the background. I can put in one, and that thing just sits there and does its thing, which is neat, because what I've done with this is kind of put it off in the corner on one of the other screens, and just let it sit there. And it gives you New York, London, Rome, Tokyo. Well done. Very useful for sitting in the background, just doing its thing. Pop back out of there, go back into the menu again. let's say I don't play blackjack, I don't play balloon, perf monitor. Let's go to P. Now this is relatively new. It's a performance monitor and it's a graphical performance monitor. And what that means is that each one of these little hashtags on a scale of from wherever to wherever, based upon what the scale needs to be, it basically says what the memory usage is, the CPU usage, total control blocks, and so on, the interrupts. Pretty cool. Informational. Okay, back out of that. Now, the big one. Oh, before we go to the big one, in case you want to know how your stocks are doing, or not your stock, you want to know how your money is doing, this is current exchange rates. Which makes sense because Moshix travels a lot. It's good to know how much money you got in one currency versus another. All right, back out of that. Back into the extended menu. Hang on a minute here. Okay. For the MVS instance, let me tell you about this now. I have had an instance of MVS, IBM MVS 3.8, running on various machines. I've had them running on Windows as a server. I've had them running on Linux as a server. I've had them running on virtual private servers from Vultr and Linode, or Akamai, however they pronounce their name. I have never had good success with the TK5 version, the latest and greatest. And it's not so much the TK5 version. I have never had good success with the latest instance of Hyperion Hercules. I think it's the 4 dot whatever. And people have said, well, we're not sure why, because it runs like a charm. And it does. It runs like a charm, especially in this environment. But for whatever reason, I don't know enough about to know why it doesn't. So I've kind of given up on running it anything but locally. Locally, it runs fine. But it doesn't run fine if I run it in the cloud, as they say, because it hangs. It takes a long time. It's a lagging problem. I'm sure there's a good reason. I've looked into the forums, I've looked into the groups IO and so on without success. So the reason why I'm saying all that is because now I can do it right through Moshix. I can do it right through Forum 3270. Moshix has put up an instance of MVS for us to use. All you need to do is ask for an account. But before you do that, be aware. It's not an infinite number of accounts. And I think Moshix is essentially saying if you're going to use it, that's great. But, tell me about why you want to use it, other than just experimenting. Because, you can't accommodate everybody who says, I want an account and then doesn't do anything. I'm a little guilty of that right now because I haven't really done anything with it, but I intend to. So let's get right into that then. Across the bottom, a little thing said Telnet. So Telnet tells me how this is working. It is talking across a TCP connection between 3270, the Form 3270 server, and wherever this is hosted. It might be the same machine, but it's talking between IPs or between. Essentially, it's not running within the Forum 3270 environment. It is a separate environment. And one of the reasons why that's important is because when you leave the TK5 environment, you can't naturally get right back into the Forum 3270. What you have to do is disconnect and then reconnect, which is not a big deal, but I think it's just way over the scope of this to try to make it perfectly seamless. I wouldn't know how to do 99% of this, but I'm not sure Moshix has the time to try to figure that out. It's nebulous. All right, I have asked for a password and a user account, and it was nice enough to get one, so I can go here and put in the password. As usual, nothing shows up, which is the way it's supposed to be. And if Fumble Fingers has done a good job, I have. Now, this is the normal stuff that happens if you log into an instance of MVS under Hercules. Yeah, the usual sleeping cat. I think that's an homage to Marbles, but I'm not sure. Marbles was, I forget who it was, his cat who had passed away back in around 2009 or something. Well, there you are. I am currently now into all of the different things that you can do in your MVS instance. And I'll tell you, it's been a while. I have been concentrating almost exclusively on CMS inside of VM370, and I will eventually, but this is not a race and there's no hurry, I will eventually move into other things, but I'm having so much fun in CMS and writing Rex code that I've kind of gotten lazy. I've gotten stuck there. I have to start doing some other things. Well, let's just see a little bit what's out there. There are tutorials, and the same kind of thing applies where you have your list on the side here. You see, the beauty of this, the genius, of course, of what Moshix did was that he gives you an environment which is similar as you go along. There's a continuity to this. So your options up here, and you have your optional codes, either letter or number. So if I want to say, well, let me show me the tutorials. I'll just put in the T there. It's going to say, all right, here's your tutorials. This is what you need to do. This is the review environment, the review editor, which is very similar to the editors that I've talked about in the past, like EE on CMS under the MECAF stuff and in Music SP. It's all similar. Shows you what you do as far as moving things around. There you go. And then here are the different topics that you can ask about. So perhaps I want to know about browse. And it shows you just exactly what it would be to browse around a data set. What do you need to do to browse around a data set? And of course you can pop back out again. How about M? So here are a couple of different environments. So two of them was Greg Price's RFE and Rob Prinz's RPF. Now, Rob Prinz created the TK5 environment. The TK5 environment which is running here, but there is also a connection to the older RFE because a lot of people like the RFE. I did. It was easier for me to understand, but then maybe not the most modern. Who knows? All right, that's old RFE. And again, it has the same layout, a very similar layout informationally as you got from logging right into Form 3270. So it gives you a sense of continuity about the way things are presented to you. So let's say I wanted to go into 3, and I wanted to say delist. And just see what's available to me on this volume, or on this data set prefix. Now, this is where things are a little bit different. When you have your very own version of MVS 3.8 under Hercules, you log in as a very specific entity. HERC01, HERC02, or whatever. But in this case here, I'm logging in as me, so I don't know what is out there. And in this case here, it says there are no data sets found, which would make sense to me because it's just, I'm brand new. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet, but I'm going to have to get into this as soon as I can. So we can just F3. F3 is always your universal get out of Dodge. And you can go back into other utilities and so on. Let's see what I can do here. Input subcommand. Again, I should know what I'm doing before I start pressing buttons, so I'm not going to press buttons. How's that for chickening out? Let's see, what else do we have here? Utilities, just for fun. I just went in there, right? No, I didn't. There's a lot of things you can do here. Let's just say one for library. Now, that takes you to the older way of looking and finding things. So if I went to this volume serial, let me see if this works. I don't think it's going to. No, because I need to have a data set in there. It's fine. So all you guys who know what you're doing are laughing at me right now, and that's fine. I want to be laughed at because that makes me want to get in more and do more things. But the whole point of showing you all this was that you do have now an instance of MVS 3.8 available through Form 3270, so you don't have to set it up on your own. and you don't have to manage it or troubleshoot it or anything of the sort. And that's great. That's really great. Okay, let's pop out of this. So I'm going to put an X in here. It takes you to the ready prompt. Now, this is important. This is the ready prompt of the MVS 3.8 environment. It is not the ready prompt of the Form 3270 that you got into this through. So you have to understand that once you have moved beyond the 3270 form, with the Form 3270 environment, say that 3 times fast, and you're into MVS TK5, you're there, and you're not going to pop back in again readily. You have to disconnect and come back in again when you are essentially done. So right now, you could have put into here anything you like. You could put in the $$ file and do a file transfer, I think. Now, that was one of the questions that Paradox had asked from the previous video. How do you do that? And we'll find out once we get an answer from that. But right now, you're at the, you're there. You could type in help, I think. Yep. And anything here is going to be from the MVS 3270. So let's see what's in the help world here. Session control, access method. Yeah, so all the things that you could ask questions about are right here. So they are the commands. Let's find out. Let me see how this works here. And let's type in time. So help for subcommand not found. Let's type in, not sure this is going to work, COBOL. Or maybe I'm in the wrong spot. I think I may be in the wrong spot. All right, more knowledge to be absorbed from somewhere. Let's pop out of here. If I type in log off, it takes me back to the TK5 screen where we started from after we jumped into it through the Form 3270, and then here you are. So that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to show you what has been happening with the Form 3270 and the fact that we have an MVS 3.8 instance to work in if you can get yourself an account. I have it, and as you can see, I need to start paying attention to that environment. I thought I knew a bit of it, but it's been a long time. Again, I have been fascinated with CMS, and that's where I've been spending all my time. So, okay, that's what I wanted to do in this video. Kudos to Moshix. You're up to 35,000 lines of code that they have been working on diligently for us for free in the 5 seconds of time that you have between raindrops, an old phrase. And we appreciate it, and thank you very much. Okay, that's it, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.